Hey guys, Abner Miranda here. I'm getting ready to do some training today, and I wanted to show you guys some targets that I've been using for a little bit. I got these from Challenge Targets. These are, you guys have seen these many times before, but these are the rifle rated version. Instead of the what is it, quarter-inch ones that I've been using, which are pistol rated, these are 3/8 AR-500 hardened steel. By the way, the reason for the black line is to remind me that that's where the bolts are, so when I'm at a distance, I remember that my aiming point should either be head or, you know, this area here. But these are a pretty much one-to-one ratio of a one-to-one human analog, if you will. I'm shooting them today roughly from 23 yards, which is it's not a good distance to be shooting rifles, especially an 11.3 like this one. There's a fair amount of velocity that comes out of an 11.3 that you don't even get out of a 10.5 or a 9.25 or an 8.5 or a 7.5. 11.3 is like a massive jump up in velocity, so it really does cause damage to steel. But I wanted to show you something that I know some of you are going, what's Abner about to do? Well, let me show you. Those hits did nothing. There's no dent. You can actually see the copper of the bullet having smeared, and the bullet ended up right there in the dirt, completely blown apart right there in the dirt. All of the energy that would have been dumped directly into that plate had I been straight on that target has been deflected, which is why armor on tanks, armor on armored vehicles is angled, because you always want a bullet to strike armored steel at an oblique angle. You either want it this way or you want it this way. You want those rounds deflecting off. Well, this drill that I've got set up over here, I've got a barrier on the right and a barrier on the left. And the idea is, if I'm standing at that barrier there, I'm actually shooting at this target here. Why? Because I want a very oblique angle on the steel. If I'm standing at that barrier over there, I'm shooting at this plate, and you can just see, not only is that an oblique angle, I also have this target set up canted slightly askew because I want to increase that angle, I want to increase the angle that that bullet has to attack this plate. I want to get years of life out of these rifle plates, and the other thing that's really cool about these plates is that they are reversible. The hardware comes out, the plate can be flipped over, put back in place, and they're spring mounted, so every time they hit, not only does the plate react, you know, to the bullet hits, and not only does it gong back at you, it also moves. Not only is this a great drill for working barriers and also finding your landmarks on the human shape, because one of the things that has to be understood is, what does it look like to aim a firearm at a real human shape? Because that is something that we seldom get to do in the training environment, because either we're aiming at paper targets that have they're very busy with a lot of score markings, or when I was in law enforcement, we were not allowed to have targets that actually had heads on them, which is why most targets basically have a hump that represents the neck area. The human form has to be understood of how to shoot it, and the only way to do that is to actually have a bad guy looking back at you. So the drill that I have set up here is, I work the barrier, I work a couple positions, and then I move to that barrier over there, and I have to keep track of my ammunition usage. I can't allow myself to run out. Woo, that's loud. minor dings. On some of these, you can actually peel off portions of the bullet. The bullet actually sticks to the plate, and you can actually shave it off with a sharp blade. Part of the copper jacket right there, it'll actually just shave right off. And what ends up happening is it ends up blowing off with the next few hits. Once again, that line in the middle is to remind me that that's where the bolts are, so I have to avoid those areas. So as you can see, no real damage. Let's check this one out. Yeah, same thing. You can see where they have kind of splattered in that direction because I'm shooting at this plate from that position right over there. So you can actually see, I mean, look at that. So it's perfect. So I'm preserving the lifespan of this target by not hitting it up close, or by not hitting it directly. And of course you can see right here, that bullet hit right there. I was shooting at 100 yards, and even from 100 yards you will cause a lot of damage to this hardware. That's where the bolts run through. You'll cause a lot of damage to that hardware, so you have to be careful where you're aiming. This is a point of contention for some people, so I'm going to go ahead and address it now. These types of hits right here are excellent fight stoppers. The one thing that I've consistently said about headshots is, this is the command center and this is the machinery. The command center makes the decision to do either good or evil, and the hands carry it out with weapons, right? So if I'm dealing with a bad person who's doing bad and evil things with a firearm, I have to disrupt the command center. I have to disconnect the command center from the machinery, which is where the arms are. The communication lines between the command center and the machinery run through this area right here. If you have the ability to get a clean shot in this window right here, in this triangle right here, this is the shot you want to take, which is why I tend to aim right between the eyes of a person, which is what that shot is right there. You know, side shots, this type of thing is going to happen when you're trying to move quickly from behind barrier. So as you guys can see, there's not a lot of damage here. That's what I really like about these targets. They're stout, they can take a lot of abuse, and remember, these also can be flipped around. So once you start getting to the point where you've got a lot of edge hits, and by the way, edge hits will cause a little bit of chipping, so you want to try to keep your shots inside the central portions of the target as much as possible. But this type of steel is what allows you to shoot up close, and as you guys remember, I shot this very, very close. So you could run this drill again at a much closer range, and get away with preserving the life of your target. And also, the more important thing here being is you don't run the risk of hurting your shooters, because if your trainees are getting hurt and every time they get ready to pull the trigger, they're going, because they know what's coming, they're going to be flinching. You want them to be comfortable with pulling the trigger and knowing nothing's going to hit them, which is why I left the camera where it was sitting when I did this. Because I've done this. I've shot steel for so many years, guys. I know where the bullets go. And I know by shooting the steel at this angle, it's not going to hurt the steel. It's certainly not going to hit the camera, and the bullets are going to end up right there in the dirt. Totally worthless. So I'm going to have the link for the information on these targets from Challenge Targets, guys. They are superb, superb targets. And in the world of steel, this is light. I forget what these things weigh, 20-ish? I forget what it is. They're not bad. I mean, look. They're not bad, and yet it's AR-500 hardened steel that's designed for the abuse of rifle rounds. That's what I've got for you guys. As always, I thank you guys for watching. God bless you all. Get those guns out in practice. Have a good one.